Have you ever tried cooking chicken drumsticks only to end up with dry meat and flavorless skin? I have, but not anymore. Today, I'm going to show you my exact chicken drumstick recipe that gives you juicy, drool-worthy drumsticks every time. No tricks, no gimmicks, just proven steps that work. But here's the twist. I'm going to share the cooking technique to get crispy skin that most people overlook, and a marinade that guarantees flavor-packed meat. It doesn't matter if you're cooking on a grill, a smoker, or even an oven, you'll be able to pull this off. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at chicken drumsticks the same way again. Before we jump into my chicken drumsticks recipe, let me tell you why most people's drumsticks turn out like cardboard. It all comes down to three mistakes: overcooking, uneven heat, and skipping proper prep work. Most people just throw raw drumsticks onto the grill and hope for the best. Here's what you need to understand. The key is proper preparation, trimming excess fat and skin, and controlling your cooking temperature. Without these steps, you're setting yourself up for failure. So here's exactly how we prep these drumsticks. First, we pat them dry. We want to get off any excess moisture off that skin. Then we trim any excess skin that will normally just burn or get chewy. Now here's a tip: score the skin in a few places, just enough to help a marinade penetrate. This simple prep step is what separates restaurant quality drumsticks from dry, flavorless ones most people make. When you prep them right, everything that comes next works out perfectly. Where a lot of people go wrong with their chicken drumstick recipe is that they think seasoning is just salt and pepper 5 minutes right before the cooking period. But here's the truth: your skin and fat are flavor carriers, and if you don't let your marinade penetrate the meat, you're wasting a lot of time to get bland chicken. I'm going to show you a marinade that combines acid, fat, and spices in the perfect ratio. This isn't just throwing some herbs together. Think of it like this: the marinade is used to break down tough fibers and add flavor to the meat and keep the meat juicy during the cook. You'll use ingredients like garlic, fresh herbs, oil, and a few things that most people never think of. Here's exactly how we make this marinade. First, I'm mincing 4 cloves of garlic. Don't just chop it, really mince them. This releases way more of that oil and the juice. Next, we're adding fresh parsley, but you can use whatever herbs you have. Now for the spices: smoked paprika, onion powder, and here's what most people don't use: a little brown sugar. Pour in some olive oil and add a splash of apple cider vinegar. I also like to add a little bit of lemon juice. That acid is going to tenderize the meat. Now comes the important part: make sure that every drumstick is completely covered in that marinade. Get it under the skin and in those scores that we made. Let it sit for at least 30 minutes, but overnight is even better. This simple marinade transforms ordinary drumsticks into something that tastes like it came from a high-end restaurant. The difference is absolutely incredible, and you'll taste it. Now here's where your chicken drumstick recipe either becomes legendary or falls flat. Most people think that you just throw drumsticks on the heat and wait, but the cooking method you choose affects how your drumsticks turn out. For this chicken drumstick recipe, you need consistent temperature control and the right amount of smoke, and a technique that gives you juicy meat and crispy skin. I'm going to walk you through a 2-stage cooking method that guarantees perfect results. We start low and slow to get that meat tender and smoky. Then we crank up the heat to crisp up that skin. I'll show you exactly why this technique works so well on my setup right here. And if you don't have a pellet grill, don't worry. I'll show you how to make this work with what you've got. All right, let's get this thing fired up. I'm setting it to exactly 225 degrees. And you know what I love about this pellet grill? It just sits right there at 225 degrees. I really don't have to do any temperature adjustments. The PID controller does all the work for me. And my buddy was over last weekend, and he was complaining about how difficult it is to hold a steady temperature on his charcoal grill. He gets these wild temperature spikes. They're anywhere from 30 to 40 degrees different than what he was aiming for. I don't miss those days. Today, I'm using cherry, but I like to use hickory too. It gives you that classic barbecue smoke. And man, look at that smoke rolling out. That's the good stuff right there. My temperature's locked in at 225 degrees, and it's time to get our marinated drumsticks on there. I'm spacing these out so the smoke can get to every side. You want to make sure that you have good airflow between the drumsticks. One thing that I've learned is don't overcrowd, or they steam instead of smoke. Now, here's the key to this chicken drumsticks recipe. We're smoking these at 225 degrees until they hit 165 degrees internally. I'm using the wired meat probes that came with my Z-Grills pellet grill. I insert it into the thickest part of the drumstick. It should take about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to reach 165 degrees. While we wait, let me tell you something I used to dread. I used to dread cooking chicken because I could never get the timing right. Either burn outside, raw inside, or cook through but dry as cardboard. This method changed all that for me. It is such an easy setup that I don't dread firing it up on the weekends or even a weeknight. So let's check in on our drumsticks. We are now about 45 minutes in. The internal temperature is sitting at about 145 degrees. And look at that color developing. You can't fake that wood smoke flavor. We'll check back in a few minutes to see how that they're doing. Now it's been a little bit over an hour, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes, and we're just hitting 165 degrees internally. It's time for my favorite part of this chicken drumstick recipe, cranking the pellet grill to 400 degrees. While it heats up, I'll pull the drumsticks off. This is another reason that I switched from charcoal. No waiting around for hours, no adding more fuel, just crank the heat and wait 20 minutes, then we're at 400 degrees. And it's time to get these drumsticks back on. And here's what's happening. That high heat is crisping up the skin while all that moisture stays locked inside. 10 more minutes at 400 degrees should do it. Listen to that sizzle starting. That's the sound of the perfect skin crisping up. You know what's nice? All that marinade is dripping down, gets caught in the drip tray. There's no flare-ups, there's no burn spots from fat hitting the flames. Just even cooking all around. All right, let's check them out. Look at the golden color. Now, don't worry if you don't have a pellet grill. This chicken drumstick recipe works perfectly in your oven or on a charcoal smoker too. If you're working with the ovens, start at 225 degrees for about an hour until you hit 165 degrees internal. Then crank it up to 425 for those last 10 minutes to crisp up that skin. You'll miss out on that smoke flavor, but that technique still works. But what about a charcoal grill? Set up a 2-zone fire. Keep the drumsticks on the cooler side until 165, and then just slide them over to the hot coals. Just keep an eye on them because you can get flare-ups and temperature spikes really easy. And I'll be honest with you, after dealing with temperature spikes and constantly adjusting vents for years, this pellet grill setup has made my weekends so much more relaxing. I can actually hang out with my family instead of babysitting the grill all day. This 2-stage method gives you juicy, smoky meat with crispy skin every time. Once you get this technique down, you'll wonder why chicken drumsticks ever seem complicated. Now, today I'm using my Z-Grills 200 2C 2E model, which is part of the program, and you may have heard of it. It's where you pay for one grill and you get 10 more grills over 50 years. It sounds crazy, right? But you get a new grill every 5 years. For a total of 11 grills, if you haven't heard about it, I have a whole video where I went more in depth. I'll leave a link to that video down in the comments for you. Now, people get so excited about that crispy skin that they cut into the drumsticks immediately. That's a big mistake. All those juices you work so hard for to keep inside, they're gonna run right onto your cutting board. Plus, if you add sauce too early, it can actually soften the crispy skin we just created. I'm going to show you the proper resting technique that locks in all of the moisture. Plus, I'll give you my secret finishing glaze that takes these drumsticks from amazing to absolutely incredible. This isn't just any barbecue sauce. This is a glaze that complements the smoke without overpowering it. And the timing of when you apply it makes all the difference. First, these drumsticks need to rest. I'm pulling them off the grill and letting them sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. I know it's tempting to dig in right away, but those juices need to redistribute throughout the meat. While they're resting, let me show you my finishing glaze. This is something I came up with after years of tweaking different sauces. In a small saucepan, I'm starting with half a cup of ketchup. I know, ketchup sounds basic, but it's the perfect base. Next, I'm adding 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Those cut through the richness, a teaspoon of smoked paprika to complement that cherry smoke we already have. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now I'm bringing this to a simmer over medium heat. Keep stirring so that nothing sticks to the bottom. You'll know it's ready when it coats the back of a spoon. It should probably take about 5 minutes. And look at that. That's exactly what we want. Thick enough to cling to the chicken, but not so thick it's gloopy. Now our drumsticks have been resting for about 8 minutes. Here's the key with the glaze. I'm brushing it on now after the cooking is done. This way it adds flavor and shine without interfering with the crispy texture. If you want to take it to one step further, you can put these back on the grill for about 5 minutes. That'll set the glaze and give it a beautiful caramelized finish, but they're perfect as they are. And here's a pro tip. Save some of that glaze for serving. put it in a small bowl on the side so people can add more if they want. Then step back and admire your work. And look at that golden brown skin and how that glossy glaze catches the light. I can't wait to dig in. This resting technique and finishing glaze turns your chicken drumstick recipe from backyard barbecue to something you pay good money for at a restaurant. The combination of crispy skin, juicy meat, and sweet tangy glaze is absolutely unbeatable. So that's exactly how you make my chicken drumstick recipe, the one that gives you juicy, flavorful, and restaurant quality drumsticks at home. But here's something that I didn't tell you at the start of this video. That Z-Grills pellet grill I was using is part of an awesome program that most people have never heard of. And if you're thinking about getting serious with your backyard barbecue, this could completely change everything. I'm talking about getting 11 pellet grills for the price of one. Yeah, you heard that right. 11 grills. Click on this video right here to learn about the Z-Grills program. It lets you buy one grill today and get 10 more over the next 50 years. This is the kind of deal that sounds too good to be true, but I'll break it down exactly how it works. Check it out now, and I'll see you there.